Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Always remember this: Vegas always knows. And for some reason, they knew something was up with West Virginia and Kansas State. Kansas State was favored going into that game by a point. I saw it as high as 2.5 points. And Kansas State won by 13. K-State defeats the 23rd ranked West Virginia Mountaineers, at least for one more day, 73-60. On Saturday evening at Bramlage Coliseum, myself and Ryan Gilbert were there, and we're going to talk a little bit about the game and some of the things going on with K-State hoops. Usually we have these as questions from Wabash Station, but the game got over late. We got, not late, but we got our work done late, and then we got up to do this, and we realized we have no new questions about basketball. So what did we do, Gilbert? What do we do in times of crisis at GoPowercat.com?
Got to come up with our own questions, man.
Mm-hmm.
And if K-State would have lost this game, we could have just recycled the old questions after the Baylor loss, but it's a little bit of a different outlook now after a win.
Those questions don't fit when the Cats play good.
No.
I was supposed to rhyme, and I didn't have a rhyme. But we're going to dive into these 4 topics about Kansas State basketball coming out of that victory. K-State does break that 6-game losing streak. They won their Big 12 opener against Cincinnati and then played poorly for a while, played better for a while, and still didn't win, and they finally got it done. The coaches have been saying, Gills, that they're going to get it done. They feel like the gap is closing, it's coming, and we could see it. They just weren't good enough to win or able to sustain effort. They did it. They did it against the Mountaineers.
Yeah, and I don't know if much necessarily changed. And is that the first question we'll get into, Fitz? I don't know.
I'll bring it up right here. Okay.
Go ahead.
What changed against West Virginia? Boy, we're a mess today. What changed? I mean, they came out of the gates like a rocket, and it wasn't just offense, it was defense too. I thought that was the first time we've seen defense and offense work in concert together so effectively for the Wildcats.
Yeah, if you see a team go on a 6-game skid and then win, you would probably think something drastically changed. K-State had been playing well recently, right? Against Baylor, let one slip away. If you avoid the bad start in Allen Fieldhouse, that one looks a lot differently. If you can score a single point in the final 5 minutes against Texas Tech, you probably win. Just 1 point. That's all we're asking for, right? But so, Kansas State wasn't playing bad, especially over the last 3 games. And, the answer really is that Tang didn't change. Tang didn't give in to the results, the wins and losses. He kept true with his message, and for right or wrong, he remained positive, and we saw the fruits of that against West Virginia. They played well, energy and effort. The opening tip was, K-State had a turnover, and then from that point on, it was just they floored it, right? Kansas State was on fire. They were taking smart shots. They only had 17 attempts from 3-point range. And so when you're shooting, I think it was 30 against Texas Tech, or I think it was Texas Tech. One of those games, they had like 33 pointers. And that's not a recipe for winning when you're not necessarily the best 3-point shooting team in the country. So, I'm sure some positives changed. I'll plan on doing a film study here as the next game's not till Wednesday. We can maybe break some of that stuff down, but it's not about what changed. It's about Kansas State stayed true, Jerome Tang stayed true, and they didn't let that Baylor loss linger into their energy in that West Virginia game.
I thought that was really interesting, that they came back with anger, and I think that was the first time we've really seen them play that kind of inspired basketball. That was the most put together the team looked. I thought that was the best. What we thought would be the collective core of this rotation, minus some guys that aren't seeing the floor or are gone. We'll get to that later, but I thought it was the best those players have played together. They seem to be creating for each other, and I'm just gonna give a shout out here. I think there's one player that has significantly impacted this team's ability to defend as a team, to rebound as a team, to score as a team. And he's upped his effort to an incredibly noticeably level, just very high, and that's Max Jones. I think this dude is playing his ass off right now. What happens in the stats isn't fully reflected. He taps out a lot of rebounds to guys that can get it. He just creates a lot of chaos down there. I thought he was outstanding, but I think they're beginning, Ryan Gilbert, to finally figure out roles and what I need to do to make this team better. And that sometimes it's hard when that answer for most of the guys on that floor have been score more points for their entire life. I'm the guy. You go back to C.J. Jones in high school, the guy. And they now have to adjust to being less than that. And I think they've been fighting it. And it's hard to tell them probably coming off an NIL signing that they're not the guy. You just pay me this money. What do you mean I'm not the guy? So I think they're finally wrestling the beast and getting it together. But boy, they got a long ways to go because I didn't think West Virginia was very good. I thought they just didn't shoot the ball well at the start of the game. K-State defended well, but they helped out by just missing some open shots. And then I just thought West Virginia didn't have a full fight in them left. That was just a humiliating start. So they're going to have to get even better. They do have an opportunity with Oklahoma State, a team they should have beaten on the road. And they get them on Wednesday, and then it gets kind of hard. But we'll see. We'll see. But there is one guy, Ryan Gilbert, on this team that is kind of hard to figure out. He's hard. You think he's one thing, and now he's trying to be another thing, and he played awful lot. And let's get to him. Let's talk about the evolution of Brendan Hausen. Did I get it right?
No.
You told me it was right. Hausen. Folks, we practiced. It's not how, which I knew it was.
We even rehearsed it.
How? Who?
Ha.
Oh, it's
Hausen.
Hausen.
Can you get Moby's last name, though, or do you got to research that one as well?
Okay, Garuko?
E.K. Garuka.
E.K.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's got an O in it.
PA announcer at Baylor got E.K. Garuka right, but then kept saying Unsenyo for Ugo.
Yeah, close enough. Interesting. He played a lot of minutes. Let's look it up here. I got it right here. Hausen played 28, 46, almost 29 minutes. There was a core of players that played 28 or more. Doug McDaniel played the most at 32. There were 6 players that played that level of minutes. Other guys pitched in, so about 24 minutes total in the game. He only scored 6, but I thought it was one of his better games of the season because he looked fully engaged in other aspects of the game. If you're a three-point shooter, you sometimes have a bad habit of everything's about my shot. Okay, I'm done with defense. Let's go spot up. It's all that. And I think now he's embracing, I got a D, I got to go rebound, I got to do this, I got to put the ball on the floor. I'm more than a three-point shooter, but if they leave me open, I'm going to knife them. And I think he's beginning to understand how his shooting fits into a complete game, not a role player of being the sniper.
Yeah, this was an important game for Hausen with Coleman Hawkins picked up 2 fouls in the first half, and then Max Jones, I think, had 3 before halftime. So very important for a guy like Hausen to step up and be more of a complete player, right? He only had 6 points, but he grabbed 5 boards, and you kind of outlined the positives from Hausen as well in this game. And so, Jerome Tang hyped him up ahead of the season as being more than just a sharpshooter. Have we seen that? Bluntly put, no, but this was a great game, a step in the right direction for a guy that, you think hopefully would be in the program next year. By all accounts, buy-in and effort have not been ever an issue with this guy. And he's, him and Gasson and Hawkins, I think, are the only 3 to start every game. And Max Jones, I guess, so 4, right? So
I think Max started them all. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess maybe all 4 of them have. Yeah. But, you're not starting if you're not a good, giving it your all. And so Hausen's an important piece for winning right now. And also it's maybe, a lot of people talk about Moby and Castillo and the future of Kansas State basketball. Well, I think Brendan Hausen plays a part in that. So, I've kind of been probably critical of Hausen for not being more of a defender, of a 3-level scorer, of all that stuff. If he's going to be playing 25, 30 minutes a game, he's got to do more than just shoot. And, I would have to do, again, on the film study, can maybe take a deeper dive into this, but Hausen had, a complete game, 5 rebounds. I think he had an assist in there as well. So K-State's going to need more out of Hausen, especially when, you got guys in foul trouble, like I mentioned, and he stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, he really did. I thought It was interesting for the most part. He was on the floor at the end of the game. I think that was Jerome Tang maybe showing some faith in him. Look, it was going to take crazy faith. It was going to take a lot for the Mountaineers to come back, and they cut the lead substantially. I mean, they were working. They didn't roll over. They were trying to at least make it look respectable, and 73-60 is honestly more respectable sounding than most of the game was. So I thought he left him out there because there was plenty to gain and little to lose by giving him another opportunity to prove he can defend down the stretch. Maybe he did better, and maybe it was because West Virginia wasn't really worried about him. They were more offensively focused because they were behind than defensively. I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah, and Fitz, bigger picture here, I posted this on X this morning. When K-State has 5 scores in double figures and Hazen isn't one of them, and you still put up 73 points and you hold a 20-point lead for a good chunk of the game, that's very, very encouraging when your sharpshooter isn't having a one of those St. John's first halves where he had 7 3-pointers in that first half. And so encouraging to see that this was a balanced attack from Kansas State when Hazen wasn't going off.
Well, let's skip down, Gills, to the 4th item we had here because I think it fits in right here. What's up with the player rotation? Now I've seen some grousing, which is complaining. It's just a fun word. It's a bird that apparently complains about the player rotation. I thought he was going to play the young guys, and here we are. The young guys need to play, and Castillo played 7 minutes, Ugonna 10, Moby 7. Why isn't he playing those guys? Folks, they won. He had a group of guys playing well together. He left them on the court to play. And in all honesty, these 9 guys, the 5 starters, and then CJ Jones, David Castillo, Ugonna, and Moby, those are the 9 guys primarily playing. That's the core of the team now. Everyone else has not earned it or doesn't deserve it. So he's going to play those guys. He wants to play the young guys as often as possible. But in no point did Jerome Tang said we're not worried about winning games. You can worry about 2 things. You can worry about winning the game in front of you and getting experience, which David Castillo came on in the first half, played a little bit, and then it became clear that the other guys were just having better days. That's all it was. The older guys were really playing well. And you know what? That can be a side effect of taking away some of their playing time and giving it to a young guy. You're not getting the same amount of playing time because you don't deserve it. You haven't earned it, and he has. And now, as a competitor, they're trying to take it back. How some of you have bent this into a bad thing, I have no idea how you've twisted yourself in that pretzel. They won a game. Be happy. And who knows? The next game against Oklahoma State, maybe they'll get up by 20 and everyone will play. Maybe they'll be in a dogfight. It'll be a 1-score game most of the game, and you'll play a lot of guys. Every game is a self-contained biological entity. And if you want to live to the end, you got to do what you do. And he did that. He played guys that were playing really good basketball together. Oh, the horror.
Yeah. I don't have much else to add, Fitz. I really don't. You hit it all on the head. And, Moby and Castillo, it would be one thing if they played well in their minutes. Now,
I thought Moby was good. He created some chaos.
They weren't steals. Moby's energy and effort, I'll take that back. Moby grabbed a few boards, right? Like he was flying all over the place. But Castillo didn't. And I've been the first to compliment Castillo and say he's been, leading in plus minus, all that stuff. I've been very vocal about that. Me and Clint talked about that on the shoot around, but this wasn't Castillo's best game, right? So excuse me, if they're not, I guess Moby is a little different than Castillo, and Castillo wasn't terrible, but I don't think Castillo gave you the best chance to win that game. When CJ has double figures and Doug is the leading scorer and has 6 assists, I think, you don't need, so it's long-winded. Fitz, you nailed it on the head. I'll stop talking. You said it perfectly. K-State won this game. And that's what, if you've got guys that aren't bought in and giving it their all, you give Castillo and Moby the green light. But K-State, from our perspective, had great buy-in. The starters were locked in, and you don't need those reinforcements when you've got a really good rotation or a starting 5 in there.
Great. And that plays into it's supposed to be the third question, but final question. Depth and use of the bigs. they have kind of developed a weakness in their lineup, and that is at the backing up Coleman Hawkins position. They're using Moby to do it right now in some ways. Of course, Chore is no longer with the team, although we believe he's still on campus, which we're confused by. There's rumors of that. He's still in the student database. Interesting. Maybe never withdrew. And maybe someone else saw a 6'9" guy with 2 first names getting shots up at the rec. I don't know. But there's a lot of talk of that.
The rec and do some investigative journalism here.
Well, plus you could probably, take him to school and make him understand he wasn't good enough. If you don't measure up to the beat writers, how are you going to play with the dudes? But so he's gone. And the story of Michaela Buddy Rich continues to play out. He earns playing time. He screws that up. Let's just say it's not good. I'm really frustrated by the fans who continue to harp on a topic where they clearly don't know everything going on. You know what I mean? There's stuff going on behind the scenes. He's trying to sort out not just who's good enough to play, but who wants to play, who's willing to put in the work, who's going to become to practice focused and prepared, who's going to, get after it in practice. So if you're seeing someone not play that's outside of that rotation, that's it. Or they're just not good enough. They just haven't shown that they can play. And that's also going on. But that happens with every team. That's not unique to Kansas State. So I'm hopeful that this group they have can play through it. But we did see something yesterday that I'm not a fan of, but they've got to do this on occasion. When Coleman Hawkins got into foul trouble, they had Ugonna on the court. He's a true 5. You got to put him out there to shot block, and he makes a difference. He does. And David Gasson had to move to the 4, which I think greatly diminishes his skill set. And I don't know why. I just don't think he's as comfortable playing that role. He doesn't seem as productive, and he did only have 2 rebounds in the game, which I thought was interesting. But I want you to address this, and I can get into it too. We had a comment on one of our videos. I think it was one of our shorts on YouTube that I want to say this. This team will never be good as long as David Gasson's playing. This is the leading scorer. This is the top effort guy. And yet I kind of agree. Give me and I'll get into that, but give me your thoughts on Gasson and what he does with the lineup when he's in.
Well, David Gasson's not Shane Southwell. He's not Nino Williams. He's not, comfortably fit to play at the 4. Now, I'm not saying he's like Shaq and is the dominant center in the paint, but he's just not maybe as versatile and athletic or capable of doing some of those things. And I'm not knocking David Gasson. That's just not necessarily who he is, right? So he's a stronger guy than that. And so, but, I don't know if we necessarily disagree at the core fits, but, David Gasson for this team, does need to be on the court a lot. He's the leading scorer for this group of what was 13, now 12 scholarship guys without a Chore. Gasson, I've got no issue at all with him playing, but if you go back to I don't have this pulled up, but his Elite 8, his first season, Gasson was not playing as much as he played now. And I think he was banged up in that year. And who knows where the truth exactly is there, but it's kind of like Brendan Haas, and I hinted at this earlier. Like, is he a 30 minute per game guy on a Big 12 team? Probably not. Is Gasson? I don't know. Probably not. But this is what K-State's dealing with. These are the cards that Jerome Tang has been dealt. And I guess if you want to be critical, Jerome Tang was able to pick his cards, right? He picked a Chore out of the portal, and for whatever reason, he's gone. He picked Buddy Rich out of high school, not even the portal. High school, you had a long time to understand and get on the same page, develop maybe that chemistry from coach to player, and you've got 2 guys that are not giving you anything. Again, for right or wrong, whoever's at fault, I don't care. But it's frustrating when you look at Naquan Tomlin. I think everybody was giving Kansas State Jerome Tang a pass there, right? Fitz, you would agree.
Yeah, I did.
There is no pass for not having 2 players that were supposed to be in the rotation not playing at this point in the year. But that's a rant. Back to Gasson, Fitz. I'm curious what you think, because given this team, I've got no issues with Gasson playing as much as he is.
So let me start this with the simple sentence that I love David Gasson. He plays his ass off, and that's what this team needs. And he's become a lot more impactful on the offensive end this year. He attacks the rim. He takes it to the rim extremely well. And while sometimes, sometimes he rebounds the ball extremely well. I'm not sure that's actually his strength. Now, I know that's a weird thing to say. I feel like sometimes bigger teams are able to get offensive boards with him out there. And he might be the one who eventually gets it, but I feel like he doesn't shut down the boards enough as a true post, and he can't defend the true posts the way you need. He gets muscled around. He's not defensively. He's not a post. He's a 4. Offensively, he's a post. Rebound wise, he's in between. He's more of a 4. He's actually kind of a 3. He gets down in there and just goes and gets balls. He's a player that doesn't really fit a position. And with every position you put him at, he brings weaknesses. So I understood exactly what the person was trying to say. And you need more of a true defender, a rim defender as your post. David did a little bit of that against West Virginia. I thought he was outstanding. He had a really key shot block. I love David Gasson, but I completely understand this sentiment that he puts you in a pickle. He might leave you a little disadvantaged in some areas because he's got to be on the court. And I think that's going to be an ongoing issue. You don't want to take him off the court, and yet there are problems when he's on the court. So it's a Rubik's Cube of issues that they got to try to solve. And I don't know there is a solution to that. With all that said, he's probably the damn MVP of this team too. So that's how confusing this situation is.
Yeah. Keep in mind, Fitz, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
David Gasson was not that they ran everybody off from last year, but David Gasson was the one guy that Jerome Tang was pretty dang outspoken about keeping, right? That could come back. So that needs to be said, that it's not just on the court, it's the culture, the locker room presence, and all that stuff, and the experience in your program and the system. That can't be forgotten for a team full of newcomers. Imagine that gelling process without David Gasson this season.
But he's exactly the poster child for what Jerome Tang needs to do. He's your only third-year player on the team. He's the only one that's been with you all 3 seasons. And it shows.
Taj.
Taj, yeah, it does. I'm sorry. Playing. But yeah, he doesn't play that much. But Taj might be an impact in practice, though, by knowing what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And I think there's incredible value in that. And I think Jerome Tang's figuring that out. And he's beginning to kind of focus in on who he wants back for next year. And now that Ugonna is in that rotation, I think that says something. I think that means he's picked up his focus, effort, whatever it is in practice. And now he's in that rotation, and maybe he'll be back. We'll see. But it's been a disaster, a mess of his own making. Jerome Tang knows that. But let's not try to say also, Gills, that he came up with some wild-haired plan to build this program. Other teams were doing the same thing. Other programs are still trying to go full NIL. And also, with all that said, this doesn't mean he's not going to go NIL. I mean, and get into the portal. It's you got to use it as a tool, and he's going to have to use it more next year than probably what he wants to do. But you got to have a team, and when you're starting over on your roster, Gills, the players got to come from somewhere. And I don't think anyone wants a roster of 6 or 7 true freshmen that they got a late start recruiting on.
Yeah, NIL has to be maybe the cherry on top or the icing on the cake,
right,
for getting a guy to come into your program, not what gets you in the door. Right. And you bring up something really good. And maybe this is better for daily delivery, but there's 2 things that can go wrong with NIL. First of all, if a player flat out tells you, I'm going to go whoever offers me the most, pick up your stuff and leave. They're not picking a school based on what's the best fit for them
what I can do to help the school. It's all about them and their pocketbook, and that's not who you want on your team. It's just not. I'm telling you, there's nothing healthy about that. Maybe it would be a great thing for a year, but then the next year, you've put out into the world how much you're willing to pay, and here they come. And it's happening. Because now agents saw what K-State was paying and are going to use this program as leverage in every other negotiation. I'm going to include K-State here. They've offered me this, but the agent ain't going to say that. The agent's going to say 2-3 times the number, 4 times the number. I just saw Danny Cannell doing a thing on this, his own little video on X about don't believe any of these numbers. They're coming from agents that are trying to drive up the price of their player for their own profit because they typically get 25% of that, which is criminal. So it's a confusing world in which we live, Gills, and I'm here to sort it out for you.
Thank you.
He doesn't appreciate that as much as
I don't understand like having money because you don't pay me anything. So
that's a topic for another day. And I do pay you in those little candy cigarettes, and you love them.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.